Dear colleagues, sorry for technical issue. We continue our panel session. In present, I start discussion session. Financing the project pipeline, role of blended finance, just transition, and international partnerships. And the first floor, I would like give Mr. Thomas Eriksson, Director of Department of East Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East region, Green Climate Fund. Please, I give you the floor.
No, and when we talk about financing, often we only think about mobilizing money, but as we've heard here, right, and thanks to our friends in IGITC, it's not only about mobilizing money, right? It's also about creating conditions where investments can actually happen. And we see this, of course, across many emerging economies, including in Central Asia, that the challenge is not lack of ambition, it's often also not finance, but maybe the challenge is more often related to an early stage gap in the process. So the point is where we have ideas, but the feasibility, the structuring, and the risk allocations are not necessarily always ready to attract private or development finance. And this is where the role of blended finance and international partnership is essential, in my mind. So in addition to be part of the finance chain, also to be part of the beginning of the process where projects are shaped. From the Green Climate Fund's perspective, I can see three key areas and key priorities. The first is really to use blended finance strategically to de-risk the early stages. This is public and concessional capital because they are most powerful, right, at the catalytic stage, when it can absorb the early technical and financial risks that exist so that commercial capital can follow. So that means often using grants for creating a pipeline of bankable projects, using grants for project preparation, and as many of you know, right, in GCF we provide countries with readiness and project preparation support for exactly this purpose. And then applying more concessional lending for demonstrations, guarantees, and risk-sharing instruments to unlock scale. And this, of course, together with partners like my dear friend to my right here. We worked together many years in EBRD before, and EBRD is a great partner, of course, in this aspect. So the objective is not to subsidize projects, it's actually to change the risk profile of programs and whole sectors. In the GCF context, really good news for Kazakhstan as well is that we now have direct entities that can access climate finance from us directly, right? We have DBK, the Development Bank of Kazakhstan, who is fully accredited across all instruments to work with GCF directly. And I hope we will have more, I'm looking at you here, IGITC, I hope we will have more national partners soon also accredited. And this will, of course, also improve the direct access to blended finance tools for Kazakh entities. The second point, and coming back to your point about the transition and making it work for everyone, greening industries, energy, land use systems is only durable if communities, workers, local enterprises, local people are part of the solution. This means that blended finance mechanisms should also support skills development, livelihoods, enterprise development, also ensure that SMEs and local suppliers are part of the systems, and prioritize regions and groups that perhaps are more vulnerable and most affected by the economic shifts. My third point is that, and this is something we have worked hard on right now from the Green Climate Fund's perspective in many countries, including Kazakhstan, that national ownership of the agenda matters a lot, and national platforms is a good solution. I think what Kazakhstan is building right now, a coordinated climate investment platform, is exactly the kind of architecture that can help and allow for international partners to enter and join in at the right stage in the processes. It will reduce transaction costs, create transparency, and ensure that projects emerge from national priorities. And in this case, we are working very closely with the Kazakh government in GCF, and we are working with IGITC and development partners to structure and support the Kazakh government to set up a climate investment platform, which we will have on a spotlight session on Saturday. If anyone is interested to join, feel free to ask me and I can send you the invite. And this is how you move from single projects to system-wide investment programs. maybe to wrap up here, because to mobilize this kind of capital at scale, right, we need this architecture, not only funding. And this is where I think these investment platforms are really essential. So my message in a nutshell, we can use concessional finance best where it has the highest value in de-risking, at the point where projects are born and when markets begin to shift. And if you do it through national platforms and national systems, that can sustain the effort over time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And maybe any question to Eric on GCF activity in Kazakhstan. We have also online conference. We also ask people to join to us. We know that GCM is the main arm of Paris Climate Agreement, and we hope that Kazakhstan finally to strengthen cooperation with GCF. Yes. Any question to Ericsson? No question. Okay. And so I give floor to next speaker. Можно фамилию я забыла. Miss. Can you present yourself? Yes. Very sorry.
I think that no problem at all. Hello, everyone. My name is Sana Khan. I'm an associate director and head of policy research and partnerships at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in the Climate and Nature group. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. Clearly, we work very closely with Kazakhstan, and I would like to start off by congratulating you for the initiative. I think when it comes to scaling green finance and increasing the demand for green finance in a country, having the right standards and definitions really helps. So first of all, I would like to congratulate on the milestone. And I would say that when it comes to scaling in general at a system level and mobilizing the necessary investments to promote the green transition, as well, that contributes towards increasing the economic competitiveness and resilience of the country. It's important to have policy coherence and consistency. So Kazakhstan has an NDC in place. We've been very also supportive of its development of long-term strategy. It has a long-term strategy investment plan that's been in the making, and I think all of these policy work is very important to speak to one another. EBRD also supported a few years ago the development of a low-carbon pathway for the power sector, which also helped inform those decisions. And the reason why I mention all these policy work is ultimately it helps to prioritize what policy and investment measures need to come in the short, medium, and long term that really helps at an economy level and help to inform how to allocate the very scarce public fundings effectively. So, I mean, Thomas, you've spoken a lot about this, but what are the most impactful at an economic, socioeconomic level, at a country level, and it's important for the policymakers to ensure that the funding is used to maximize that impact, and identify where the private sector can come in and really, and bring the private capital in. And in order for the private sector to be able to invest, ultimately they need profit. So it means that you need the enabling market environment. And what does that mean? It means that you need a range of financial instruments that can accommodate to different types of investments, whether it be through concessional finance, blended finance, guarantees, or purely commercial basis. There's a full range, and I think there's a lot of momentum, particularly over this year, to really bring the financial sector to think hard about this together with the policymakers. We're very active in Central Asia in general, and we also are very active in also, as you mentioned, Thomas, about country platforms. We are quite supportive of countries who are considering this approach. I do think that it really takes a country that has done a lot of thinking about this prioritization at the policy level to then think about how do you then implement it, right? The implementation of NDC and long-term strategy. And those countries that have done that thinking are well positioned then to think about a more systemic level of implementation. So I think Kazakhstan's intention of developing in country platform, it kind of illustrates that thinking has been done. EBRD has been particularly involved in supporting Kazakhstan. I mean, clearly country platform, it needs to be country owned, country led. It really needs to be owned by not only the government, but the financial sector and other private sector actors and government entities. So we've been kind of helping develop more on the just energy transition area. And I think there's been a good progress in terms of mobilizing kind of the partners around this concept, and I'm looking forward for that to progress. Beyond that, just very briefly, EBRD has been operating in Kazakhstan for, very actively. I think over 1/3 of the renewable power capacity in the country has been financed by EBRD. We're also very active in green space, helping the country reduce methane reductions in wastewater sector, for example, renewable auctions program. So again, I think having a more systems level approach where all the partners can then come along and we all can kind of be better coordinated and collaborate and use resources more effectively will be the path forward. And again, going back to the initiatives that was launched, I think those are very helpful in informing the market and providing a strong signal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam Kulun, for your contribution. And we also working very tightly with EBRD in Kazakhstan, with Mayra Kusainova and Jan William, former director of Department of Policy, EBRD. And maybe you know that we developed the first national standard on certification experts in greenhouse gases. It's a very big and hard working, and present we plan to include this standard to national standardization plan. My question, according Article 6, do you have plan to working with maybe a special program with Kazakhstan, maybe in capacity building or another issues, because this is a you know that it's a big issues not only for Kazakhstan but also for developing countries. You know that we unfortunately a lack of experts, lack of preparation project to Article 6. What's your opinion in this direction?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we've been working for over the many years, in fact, with Kazakhstan on thinking through and developing the emissions trading system. I think we're still working on that. And I think there are many other partners, including partners like World Bank, that have a really big program in helping develop carbon market and Article 6 mechanisms. So I think it's very important that everyone in this space kind of works together, and again, the policy coherence and support. I think EBRD, because we're a private sector oriented development bank, we're also, I think we really want to see transactions happen and really get closer to the projects. So I think in the short term we want to engage at a policy level, but really help kind of develop a pipeline of projects where it can benefit from Article 6 mechanisms. And we're involved not only in Kazakhstan but in other Central Asia in helping develop that, whether it be in more sectors like agri-food sector to of course the energy sector, etc. So I would say just yes, to be continued.
Dear colleagues, I have one more question to representatives of GCF and EBRD. Thank you very much for your interventions. It was very interesting, and for sure we are very thankful for you for your support that you have made to Kazakhstan and Central Asia in general. And from the perspective of NIFIs, what specific mechanisms or standards would be acceptable for the service operator of green technologies, or maybe for the Ministry of Ecology of Kazakhstan, in order to make you feel confident in the due diligence of the projects that are proposed by Kazakhstan?
Well, sorry, I didn't quite catch which standards did you mention?
what mechanisms or standards may be accepted or adopted by Kazakhstan or service operator of green technologies in order to make you feel confident in these projects?
Yeah. No, thank you for the question. I think it's clearly green transition is a kind of journey, and every market is in a different place. So I think it's very important that standards take into account the country context. And again, going back to my policy question, it's very important to have an overall pathway and the granularity at a sector level as to what is the best level of, let's say, threshold at that given time in terms of what contributes towards, let's say, Paris alignment or greening of the economy. Having said that, I think it's also very important that in order to mobilize and scale, the private investments, the closer you are to the international best practices and standards, and there's also taxonomies, and I mean, we typically aspire to have the best kind of green standards. At the same time, you have to be realistic, looking at the market and see, what is available, what is appropriate for the country level. So I think it's important to do the country level assessment and the market assessment and how it contributes to specific transition of a specific system or sector, and apply the right standards in that way. I know it's not a very simple, straightforward answer, but typically requires quite a complex analysis behind, I think, defining these type of thresholds. Now, having said that, I think we have green credit lines, for example, through intermediary financing, and those are for smaller scaled investments, and I think it's inappropriate probably to demand, such technical assessments at a small scale investment level, and you have to kind of simplify and have a more standardized, I think, thresholds to more easily understand what it qualifies as a green, investment versus not. So, but I think there's a lot of, let's say, standards and taxonomies out there that, for example, Kazakhstan and other countries can refer to.
Thank you very much for your answer. And if possible, one more, a bit specific question about, you talked about country context. If we are talking about Kazakhstan, there are a lot of coal. Yes. And, but as we all know, many of funds, they are not financing coal and coal-related energies and activities. And what can you say in this relation?
It's a tough, of course, challenge, because clearly I think in order for Kazakhstan to meet its ultimate climate goal and its international commitment for Paris alignment, I mean, it needs to rapidly decarbonize its energy sector. At the same time, you have challenges like heating, for example, that is, not easy to immediately find, solutions for, and it requires a bit of time of transition. I think it's also about building a bit of confidence of alternative energy solutions. So, for example, I think, once the country gets comfortable with rapid scale and renewables and see it works well, and that it's able to meet its supply demand, then naturally one will be more inclined to transition, because the population does not benefit from breathing in also polluted air and all the other bad impacts of using coal. So I would say, clearly as an international institution and supporter of the Paris goals, I would encourage more rapid coal phase out for Kazakhstan. At the same time, it's very understanding, and it's a country decision to decide how to take that journey. But I think really not delaying action, so really pushing forward with the cleaner solutions, because ultimately that will help country maintain and strengthen its competitiveness and resilience overall. This is about the future economy. It's investing in your own development, and that's not the technology for the future. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Kun, for your full reply. It's very important for us, because we are plan to continue strength cooperation with EBRD, not only in terms of strengthening financing project, but of course it's in institutional support. And before Lucia, can I send one question to Thomas? Thomas about GCF. And we know that GCF now is a broad cooperation with the Kazakhstan, especially we know that you signed memorandum with the Bank of Development of Kazakhstan. And how about your cooperation with business sectors? Do you have any project in your portfolio with Kazakhstan or not now?
No, thank you. No? Yeah. Thank you for that question. We actually have in our ongoing portfolio through EBRD, actually, there's quite a few projects that targets private sector in Kazakhstan. I think we have two or three ongoing projects, right? I mean, I saw Dina's name behind me. I haven't seen Dina yet. I saw Dina's name in Development Bank of Kazakhstan as well. I mean, now going forward to program with them, we will look also forward to bringing in private sector entities in that discussion, right? And we actually, I don't want to talk too much about the pipeline, but we have also one pipeline project that we are currently working on with the government of Kazakhstan. That would be a technology fund together with global investors in Kazakhstan as well. That will help enable the access to technology that targets private sector clearly as well, right? So we are getting there. You know, and I think also with the in the discussions we have with the government on how we use the readiness funding, so the upstream technical assistance, capacity building funds, the government is also very open to work together to see how can we use some of that funds also to open up private engagement. So I think we will really do much more, but there's already quite a lot going on actually on the private sector side already as well. But thanks, good question.
Okay. Thanks. I was in Incheon 5 years ago via Green Academy also. Send some application, and I think that you GCF also can reduce some criteria to application, because very difficult question and criteria to apply applications. And my suggestions, maybe GCF prepare some specific documents for cooperation with academia, scientific, etc. organizations. What's your opinion in this direction?
I mean, there is nothing stopping us, right? We don't have, I mean, the funding we have will be the readiness window in that case, together with the government, right? I mean, there we can work on the topics that in the national context are important and to help develop policy options and engage, right? So I think this is an engagement to have academia together with the authorities and us. Also when, I mean, it's not about funding only, right? It's also about sharing knowledge and so on. And there we can do anything we want, right? So I mean, I have been in a lot of my recent visits I did in Uzbekistan. We did almost a day together with the Green University to do lectures, to engage with the professors, and also engaged with the Central Asia University quite a bit. But more again on sharing knowledge and what works, what doesn't work, and find ways to work together like this. And I do the same in Iraq actually, with universities now. I'm going to go to Iraq soon, and in Iraq I will have a few lectures together with the professors and so on. So it's also a way to open up, right, a conversation on climate finance and climate, and how that links to national development planning and priorities. So I think it's a really good thing to do, and more than happy to do much more on a kind of an individual or on level as well. Thank you so much for the question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome to Kazakhstan also. And we give floor Lucia de Strasser, Environmental Affairs Officer, United Nations Economic Commission.
You hear me? Yes. Very nice to be here. So I'm from the UNECE, Economic Commission for Europe, from the Environment Division, and my contribution will focus a lot on water. So it's going to be not a lot about finance. And I'm very glad to be in a panel that already touched upon that. But yeah, at the UNECE we have the Water Convention, the Secretariat of the Water Convention, where I work, and we also have Sustainable Energy Division, with whom, as Secretariat of the Water Convention, we collaborate very strongly. And I am saying this as background information because what I'm talking about now is the engagement of Kazakhstan with us, which really was in tandem between the two, energy and water. And I think this is very, very, very important when we talk about green projects, because we always talk about integration, and the integration also needs to come from us, right? Us, let's say, international support, cooperation. So, a bit more praising for Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is one of the very few countries that indicated in their NDC the importance of water and the importance of transboundary water cooperation. Yeah, and this is because Kazakhstan knows very well that when you have a problem of water scarcity or a problem of water quality, you run into troubles. Yeah, and so tackling water issues is a way of making projects sustainable and also more bankable. So it means integrating water risks early in this, design phase of the project, identifying ways of actions to reduce the risk and increase the resilience of projects, and also, as I said before, the transboundary dimension, ensuring that you have transboundary cooperation in place that works, and that if there is an issue, you are responsive and you don't, let's say, add the political element to the project risks. Yeah? So the Water Convention in particular deals with transboundary water cooperation. Yeah? And Kazakhstan has been supporting and contributing to the platform of the Water Convention, which is a global platform of knowledge, very, very strongly. So they have the International Water Assessment Center, which supports the implementation of the convention in the region. It's active, I believe, since 2017 in Nur Sultan. And they also very recently, this is very nice to raise here. Kazakhstan has been a party to the convention since the beginning, since 1992, I think. And it's considered an experienced party in the water convention, meaning they have a lot of experience in transboundary water cooperation. And now we have new parties joining the convention, and there are twinning between all the new parties. And Kazakhstan is sharing all of its knowledge with Iraq, which is a very, one of the most recent parties we have. And this, I think, is really, it's really at the heart of what we do, but also looking at green projects, super important, because their twinning focuses specifically on the issue of water scarcity and on the issue of water infrastructure and resilient water infrastructure. So if you build a solid knowledge on this, I think this is one of the two things that were identified in the concept note, at least, right, for the risking. So let me also recall a very important work that we supported in Kazakhstan and in Central Asia, that was Nexus Assessment, Water, Food, Energy Ecosystem Nexus Assessment of the Sirdarya. And this had all of an element of energy modeling. So there was a model of the electricity system of all of these countries and how it linked to the hydrological system of the Sirdarya. And there were some modeling runs that were done to see the impact of decarbonization actions, and in particular renewable energy and energy efficiency. And there is a clear link between these two and water management. Okay, so there is an element of really using energy policy also for water sustainability. Yeah, and sometimes these benefits are hidden. So if we bring them up, I think it can add scores, right, to projects and plans. Also, as a concept, as a follow-up to this activity, which was 10 years ago now, we now have a project also with many colleagues, common colleagues, OECD, EBRD, FAO, in Central Asia for climate adaptation, also with the Nexus approach, that will focus on, will aim to support the countries of Central Asia and Kazakhstan in particular to come up with projects in different areas for climate adaptation. And let me just stress nature-based solutions. So we're already starting to understand what we mean with nature-based solutions and help the countries design nature-based solutions. Small hydropower, which is super important for resilience and super potentially controversial, so it's very important to do it sustainably. And agri-food businesses. Yeah. So that's, let's say, all on water. But since there was a question on coal, let me also add that from the our energy colleagues have been strongly supporting Kazakhstan on reducing emissions from the oil and coal industry, to understand how to reduce methane emissions, and most recently also to have a look together at critical raw minerals and how to deal with the energy transition from the industrial point of view of producing new technologies and deploying them. So a lot of collaboration. I hope that this complements a bit this vision that the UNEC, a bit like UNEP at the beginning, is ready to support with capacity building and very technical issues and with what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. We have one question from Елена Arkhangelskaya. She is worked as head of Department of Ministry of Energy, and now Elena is a PhD student, postdoctoral students, Columbia University, New York. Please, Elena.
Hi, thank you so much for all of your presentations. It was very insightful. So I just had a quick question regarding the ongoing negotiations happening on just transition as part of the GST suggested by UAE government a couple of years back. What are your thoughts? Because the views that are discussed right now, they're so different, like they're so contrasting. Some countries really support just transition initiatives and how energy transition will play into it, but many developed countries, they don't really see it as this necessity, as another unnecessary duplicating financial track. So I just wanted to hear your opinions on what do you think would be the outcome of that, and how Kazakhstan would actually play in it, like in terms of Kazakhstan vision on energy transition.
Thank you for the question. I mean, I presume you have more insight into the negotiations myself, since Kazakhstan is part of the negotiations. But I would say, going back to my point about really looking at the energy transition journey on a system level for each country is really, really important. And that means also looking at, how does it impact the livelihoods of the people, as part of that transition. And so, for example, both in Egypt, we have Egypt and North Macedonia, we have supported countries in their energy transition, and they both have just transition components to it, which is largely about reskilling, providing technical assistance to the workers to be able to either transition into a new industry or they're both technical and non-technical trainings involved. In the case of North Macedonia, we actually ended up supporting the country platform development because many partners were supporting North Macedonia's Just Transition Action Plan. And that really helped inform, what does the energy transition in North Macedonia look like? And so we made sure that that was integrated. But I think it's really, again, going back to my kind of point about, scarce resources, right? You have to be really targeted and really think hard. who are the immediate ones impacted and make sure that you prioritize and allocate to those impacted areas and then sequence it around that. And then, the broader economic diversification, of course, is part of the story, but that requires more medium, long-term investments, right? So you have to look beyond energy sector. How do you create more opportunities in the economy where the labor can shift more, flexibly, and there's more regional developments, and people can be more mobile. So it really does kind of pin on the long-term economic vision, right? That puts green at the center because that makes the economy more competitive and resilient. And maybe going back to the coal point, I want to come back to that, is that I think there, again, going to my point about policy message being really consistent. There's a very powerful thing about being able to communicate our vision is to phase it out because we're going for a really green future. That gives a lot of comfort in the market and to partners to really corral, and come support. So, I really encourage Kazakhstan and other, countries to believe in some ways yourself, because we're in the Korean pavilion. I'm Korean, by the way. And, I think our country, if I may say so, has a strong track record of kind of believing in ourselves to create economic opportunities in a very difficult situation. And I think other countries can do the same. So I'll leave it on that. Thanks.
No, let me add a quick thing to what Songa said here. I mean, I think an important thing to do is to, when you look at the big transition topics and the big financing that goes into it, and I totally agree with what you said, right? I mean, I think it's the key in the transition part of it is really to almost like put a vulnerability lens on it. Which are the groups that are most at risk, right? The more well-educated groups of people, they are more mobile, typically, right? Here you have, if you do that, I think it's much easier to be a bit more practical about transition. Otherwise, it becomes often a quite, theoretical construct, right? So I think if you add like really a vulnerability lens on it, and this is, you mentioned North Macedonia. I mean, if I take off my GCF hat, in my last job, I signed the North Macedonia platform, for instance, right, on behalf of an MDB, and it was exactly to bring in the just transition elements actually into that platform and to provide the availability of financing to do actually just transition investments in that platform. And if I may, I'm going to jump to you as well on water, because I just wanted to pick up on water a bit as well, since we talked about that. And this is a bit of a plug to Kazakhstan. We have just in our last board meeting approved GCF's biggest ever program in Central Asia. It's together with ADB, the Asian Development Bank. It covers 9 countries, so Central Asia plus Caucasus plus Pakistan. But it's a $3.5 billion investments, right, that goes to the region for investments needed around tackling the impact on climate change on melting glaciers. And of course, we have the 2 main river streams in the Central Asia basins. The Amur and Surdarya are both glacier-fed river streams, right? And this is the water source for the whole plateau, right, for the whole basin. So I really, it's important, I think, for governments now who we have made this funding available through ADB, right? Right now is the pipeline development phase. Here you have, if you do an arithmetic average, 3.5 billion by 9, you have close to 400 million per country of resources, right, available for investments in water, either upstream investments or downstream investment, right? It could be agricultural chains and effectiveness of water use, but it can also be water policies, municipal water related. It can be early warning related to water, maybe more in the upstream mountainous areas. But I think you really have an opportunity now to kind of use these funds as well to create blended mechanisms, right? To create the mechanisms to reach these investments.
Okay, thank you very much. Lucia, your comment?
No, great. It's great that you mentioned this, because I was going to just add the element of regional cooperation again, because I think it's very important when we talk about just transition. But really, a lot of the negotiations here obviously happen. Are the countries that negotiate, right? And sometimes they negotiate on behalf of groups that are spread around the world. But really, then when you look at climate action, it's on the ground, and very often there is a missed opportunity to do it with your neighbors, right? who are actually there and could really help making sure that the money that you value the money that you invest, because you can do it together and you can serve multiple benefits at the same time, and you can also decrease the cost of certain things and so on and so forth. So really the element of regional cooperation is crucial for the transition, a just transition. And I think once again Kazakhstan is in a very good position, also in the dimension of Central Asia, to kind of drive a just transition and be inspiring not only for Kazakhstan itself, but also for other countries. Be bold and visionary on the decarbonization, which is challenging but is possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And we are plan to give floor Dina Jamadil. Dina, welcome to our site event, and thank you very much for your time. Managing Director for Strategy, Finance, ESG, and Big Data, Developing Bank of Kazakhstan. Please, Dina.
Good day, dear colleagues. Good day, dear Bahut. And I see that here is Thomas and other representatives are participating. I see that this platform is great to discuss blended finance mechanisms, what kind of opportunities we can create in Kazakhstan to mobilize financing and finance sustainable and green projects. Generally, as you know, Development Bank of Kazakhstan's mission is to promote sustainable development through financing non-resource sector of the economy. So we are actively integrating in the agenda of the government priorities. So it's fully in line with the low carbon neutrality by 2060. It's within the long-term strategy of our country. We also currently recently received our accreditation from Green Climate Fund. It's a great opportunity for our country to get direct access for concessional financing in the future to finance sustainable projects. Therefore, we are actively integrating ESG principles to our borrowers. We are actively issuing annual report in line with all climate standards, GRI, SASB. We also have an attempt to disclose the information in line with the IFRS S1 and S2. Step by step, we're disclosing the greenhouse gas emissions, scope 1, 2, and 3 by sectors. Moreover, as you know, DBK, we are contributing to the financing of renewable projects, so that it's 1/4, it's 25% Kazakhstan's capacity by the end of October. We are already financed renewable projects. So moreover, we know that in order to finance these sustainable projects, we need green financing. 2 years ago, we started this journey through issuance of green and sustainable bonds. In line with this agenda, first we developed the green and sustainable finance framework. Moreover, we also developed ESG risk concept. We engaged our credit team, risk team, as part of the increase of role of private sector. Currently, we are developing the pipeline of the projects. And also, moreover, we internally developed new documents in order to meet the requirements of green climate funds, like ESS, gender policy, ESMS, evaluation policy. So that we believe that by developing the pipeline of strong, robust projects, we can help and implement our long-term strategy for low carbon neutrality by 2060. Currently, in line with the green projects of taxonomy, we have energy efficient, renewable projects. Moreover, we are finding the elements of green and sustainable components in carbon intensive projects as well. So therefore, we see that the GCF accreditation is the first opportunity for us to use this blended finance mechanism. Currently, we are also considering the attraction of and the consideration of technical assistance from Climate Investment Fund as well for decarbonizing carbon-intensive projects. So, and the last slide, as you can see, it's the list of, for example, of the projects that we are financing for the renewables, energy efficient, in food security sector, and so on. So thank you for this opportunity for IGITC and for COP30, to contribute to this agenda.
Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Dina, for your contribution and presentation. We wish you good luck in the first pipeline implementation projects. Thank you very much, and please stay in touch because we are continue our discussion session, maybe question. And one lady, yeah, please, I give. No.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you very much. My name is Yelizaveta Badanova. I'm originally from Ukraine, but I'm an energy expert. But I'm also a PhD researcher, so I think there's a corner of PhD students here. And I'm doing research on the international governance of public finance, especially concerning GCF and EBRD, working in two countries, Egypt and Kazakhstan. So I think I'm very fit with this thing. And I also would like to really thank the Korean Pavilion and the Kazakhstani ministries and other stakeholders, because it's quite, there are not that many events about Kazakhstan. So I think this is a very great opportunity to sort of hear about your country and the story and other things. So I have two questions. One, it will be more, let's say, theoretical in a sense. When you look at the projects in the region, you see the two-way dynamic. Sometimes EBRD goes on itself, and then the GCF funds some projects in the same country, but sometimes it's the other way around. The GCF starts, to support the EBRD, and then the EBRD goes to finance on its own with other partners. So if you maybe sort of share does it mean anything, or it's just like situational, or it's kind of emblematic of some developments? And the second question is more about the connection between the funding from IFIs and the local reform agenda. And here specifically, I mean the market liberalization. So how do you balance do you require market liberalization in all countries? Because effectively, when you're talking about the business case, the business case comes from the market environment full on, right? Not just at some level. So how does this fit into this paradigm? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start and pass. I think this is between two of us, right? So, I mean, in a way, the way GCF works, we don't have any direct investments ourselves. So we work only through partners, right? So, we have the upstream facility in a way where we help the country develop a pipeline of investment projects, but then we don't invest in anything by ourselves, right? It's all through partners. So like EBRD, in this case, right, is one of the main partners, especially in Central Asia, right? It's by far the biggest partner for GCF financing. But in addition to that, now we are expanding this space, right, with national entities. You heard DBK is also now accredited to receive funding directly from us, for instance, right? So there is not I don't think there's any case where we wouldn't, it would all be well coordinated with both the governments, because it's based on their pipeline and their priorities, and it's also with the, as I said, everything's implemented through a partner, so we don't do anything by ourselves, right? Because we don't have that capacity basically. we're a fund. Our only purpose is to provide, in a way, the blended elements, right? Either through grants or loans on concessional terms, because otherwise it wouldn't be value added, right? I mean, the market terms loan or the regular loans come from the partners, and what we do is to add the concessional piece, right? Or in private sector transactions, equity or guarantee structures, we can also finance, right? And all of them are in the concessional space, basically.
Yeah, no, thank you. I am not familiar with the exact product that you're referring to, but just add on to what Thomas has mentioned. GCF is a fund, and there are many other funds as well, and we have donors, bilateral donors, and we are on the financing side. So it really depends on, even the types of fundings that we need. Could be investment grants to technical assistance, so it really depends on what are the needs, and then being able to match it up well with, for the investment at hand. Now, clearly, in terms of the more overall prioritization of investments, understanding of countries' priorities, and then seeing which partner is best positioned to support that, those type of, I think, knowledge sharing and coordination and collaboration is kind of a day-to-day thing. But yeah, I think when it comes to transactions, like other factors also come into play. Yeah. And then, what was your second question? Sorry.
Market liberalization.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, again, I think it comes back to the point that you have to, that you've probably heard the billions to trillions, but essentially it is talking about for the world to really move and shift the market. You cannot rely on just public funding. It's too scarce. That's to perhaps catalyze, but you need the private sector to invest. And ultimately, it is in their, I mean, we don't operate in a vacuum, right? We all operate within countries and markets that, we physically belong to. It's about, making your assets more resilient and sustainable and whatnot. So I think the intentions are aligning, but it's the financial incentives and the policy. I think the policy framework, there's a lot of kind of barriers that limits the private capital to really come in. But again, I think standards, policy consistency, really strong leadership, I think signaling that this is a serious transition really helps, and we've witnessed that in many other countries as well. So yeah, maybe I'll leave it there. But again, I think also just maybe again when we look at a more system level transformation, it's important to be part of the diagnostic and assessment to understand where the private sector can really play a role. Because there are some technologies that are commercially viable. The private sector can already come in, whether it's through intermediary local financial institutions to direct financing, but they have a role. But I think identifying that requires a bit of assessment and knowledge sharing that I think in kind of formats like Country Platform ideally could help facilitate that.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And last question from Natalia Bachinskaya online. Natalia, we give you floor, please. Your question. Natalia? No? Okay, announcement. Who are partners in capacity building in the region? To whom this question? Okay, maybe to Lucia. Lucia, this question to you. Natalia Bachinskaya from Kazakhstan, trainer and facilitator of climate sustainable development. Who are partners in capacity building?
Recording in progress.
This is Natalia.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi,
Natalia.
can you hear me?
Yeah. Natalia, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask, who are your partners in capacity building in the region? What is the process of capacity building in Kazakhstan or maybe Central Asia?
Is the question on water?
On water also, it's also very important question for Central Asia.
Okay, because as I said, I spoke a lot about water because that's my area. But the UNECE does a lot of capacity building also on other things, and the partners often are different. I mentioned the International Water Assessment Center, IVAC, which is based in Nur Sultan. I think that's a very good contact that I can that I can highlight for water management. Really, it's both water management and transboundary cooperation for Central Asia. And this is most of the capacity building we do with them. I think 1 year ago we co-organized a workshop on water allocation and cross-sectoral cooperation for water management, for sustainable water management, which was quite successful, and other local partners. But honestly, I think if you ask them, you get the full network, the full picture. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natalia. We will provide you by contacts our partners from EBRD, GCF, and UNEP also. Thank you for your question. Dear colleagues, no question? Please, quickly, please.
Dear speakers, thank you for your inspiring speeches and thank you for your work. My name is Almira Ajibekova. I'm an MEM student at Yale University, and I'm currently at my sabbatical from the Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources. And my question to the speakers is what strategies could help Kazakhstan to bridge the gap between policy ambition and real implementation towards a climate resilient future? Thank you.
Yes, so, colleagues feel free to add, but I think, different policy instruments have different purposes, right? You have kind of the vision, overall vision, that then it informs how you develop a long-term strategy. Then you have interim, like policy instruments like NDC, more at an economy-wide level, but it also needs to be translated into sectoral strategies, right? So, and then at a strategy level, that's insufficient to get to action. So then you need to look at, more in a short term, what are the even within the more shorter time frame, what should be prioritized, what needs a bit more time, and really map out the investment plan, a roadmap, right? That goes hand in hand with policy reform. Because you need those changes in order to anticipate that certain financing could happen, and articulating that and then sharing that and having, again, going back to the policy consistency, is what really translates goal into action. And so, for example, when I talk about the country platform work, typically there would have been kind of the low carbon pathway, low carbon and kind of resilient pathway developments at typically EBRD would support a lot of the sectoral work, so at a sector level, and it will do kind of the high level prioritization and estimations, investment needs, et cetera, but then that needs to then further translate into investment plan, and that typically happens with, very, very active stakeholder engagement, the local financiers, international financing project developers, technology providers, they all need to come around the table to be able to then really outline that investment plan that's actionable. Because without having the real market information reflecting these plans, it doesn't build credibility, nor does it translate into action. So I'll leave it there, yeah.
Okay. I can say a few words, but I think you covered it quite well. It's always the case, right? If you work only at the upstream, right, you end up with very good policies and papers and visions and strategies. But if you only work downstreams, you end up with a very kind of diverse, dispersed set of projects, right? So the question is, how do you connect the two in a way, right? So, and I think that's what you try to explain here. And if I would add to what Sunga just said, right? And I tried to say a few things in my remarks in the beginning. Closer, thank you. In the beginning as well, right? So one part is clearly to get that pipeline of projects there, right? Break down that vision into investment-ready activities, and then develop those projects in a way so they are fully bankable, right? And then comes the finance side, clearly, right? So you need to bring in domestic finance or national budgets, national private finance, development banks, both in the national level, international level, and people like myself or ourselves, like in the GCF, the concessional elements that can help get the right investments over the hurdle, right? And then you have what Sunga said as well, the whole enabling environment setup, right? How do you then, because to get that, you have to open up a bit, right? And this is maybe the hard part in some cases. You need to allow private entrepreneurship. You need to build that trust in the system that would work. And that's a journey, as you see in many countries. And the last piece is maybe the implementation architecture. This is not only money, right? I worked many years in EBRD before, right? EBRD is still money, right? It's not engineers. It's not, it's not. It's not putting shovels in the ground, right? You need the whole structure to be able to get this working, right? So you need the whole industry with it. So it's not easy, right? But I think these are the 4 or 5 things in a way that is needed to be able to shift from that vision to that reality on the ground. And of course, we talked about people, right? And the communities, you need to bring in people in this equation clearly. There has to be a shared vision. But thanks so much.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, we are wrap up our session, and first of all, let me say once again, thank our colleagues and partners from EBRD, GCF, UNEP, UNIC. Welcome to Kazakhstan. Tomorrow we continue our discussion in Digital Pavilion. I kindly invite you to join to us, 9:30 we start. And we plan to discuss how Kazakhstan can create digital platform for promotion Article 6. Welcome. And we also ask IDAR to conclude our recommendation and prepare some resolutions this site event and deliver between all participants. Thank you once again to Korean government, Ministry of Climate, Ecology and Environment for hosting this site event, and of course IGITC Center for arranging this site event. Thank you very much and welcome to Kazakhstan. Thank you. General photo, Thomas, general photo speakers and participants, please.